She then said if I tried to push past her she'd tell everyone I attacked her, and who were they going to believe? What's been your crazy experience when you rejected a woman? I rejected a girl once, then about 2 to 3 months later, I was catfished by her. She was only proving that I'd end up going out with her anyway, by pretending to be somebody completely different. A police report and a restraining order later, she's out of my life. To be fair, I was totally into the girl at first, so my rejection might have stung a little more. We were friends with benefits and she was legitimately super attractive to me. Just, as time went on, I learned more and more about her that made me not want to be with her. Sex her, sure, but not like, build a life together. So when she made the move for more than friends with benefits, and I said no, she told me she was going to go have sex with a dude she knew I hated, film it, and send it to me. They're married now, with kids. So, I mean, good on them I guess. Freshman year in high school, a girl I didn't really know came up to me and said I was cute and that I should go out with her. My initial impression was that she was pretty cute, but that I wasn't really interested in dating at the time and I didn't really know her well enough to want to date her, so I politely declined. She seemed to take it well enough and we both went about our day. Next morning I walk up to my locker where her 3 older brothers, sophomore, junior, and senior, were all standing around my locker, giving me a death glare. Not knowing who these guys were, I asked if I could get to my locker and they surrounded me. They proceeded to ask me things like if I thought I was too good for their baby sister and what my problem was. I guess they were sent by her to intimidate me into dating her or something, because they said I would be given a second chance to make the right decision. I politely declined again, though this time definitely afraid of a beating, but they just called me weak and went about their day. Such a bizarre day. I was graduating from my master's, had a low self-esteem and my ex was really hinting that she wanted to get married. I didn't, was super clear on that. She broke it off right before I went to visit my parents for about a week. I was a bit bummed out on the way home and a couple of days after, then she called and said she wanted to talk when I got back. By then, I had the feeling she would want to get back together if we got engaged or married. And that's exactly what happened. When I got back she acted like everything is fine and talking about us getting serious. After that we went, sat down and told her it was over. I was angry, she was suicidal. She even ran to the kitchen and got a knife and threatened to slit her wrists. I pulled the knife away after getting cut myself and locked her in my bathroom where nothing sharp was there, and called a friend of mine to give us a ride so I can leave her at her house. At that point I didn't want to leave her at a cab and act crazy and missing or something. That's not the end of it, it had just begun. Next morning I woke up to 30 texts and 5 missed calls. I decided to ignore them. It escalated to 40 a day and 20 missed calls for about a week. Then notes in my car. Then a friend of hers started coming to my house to talk to me and say what went wrong and apologizing for her. I told her I would not get back together with her. When that didn't happen she sent 2 friends of hers to beat me up. Luckily my friends were in my apartment and they backed off. Next morning I had 2 slashed tires in my car. Almost missed a job interview. She would stalk me by staying at a cafe across the street from my place for hours, monitoring who came in and who came out and what time. The final straw was when, after about 3 months passed, I had started dating a girl and we went to my apartment to DVD and chill. I got a call about an hour in. It was a friend of mine saying that he got a call from my ex saying that the girl with the brown hair and red blouse, exactly the description, was too ugly for me and she wanted to mess her up. I ended up making her a nice dinner and had a bottle of wine so I could make time for her to eventually leave her post at the cafe. I ended up changing my car, apartment, cell phone, emails, and after that I haven't heard from her since. I dated a girl for a couple weeks, and on our 3rd date, we chilled at my place and talked. She told me that she thought men who watch pornography were disgusting and if they were in a relationship, it was cheating. 10 minutes later, she out of nowhere asked to use my computer. I knew the last thing I had open was not going to impress her, so I said maybe some other time. She got way too angry at this and said her intention was to write me an email about how much she liked me. BS. When I said I thought it would be best to call it a night and drove her home, she went quiet until about halfway there, when she says my dad's best friend is a cop. I can say what I want. I got the gist but figured it was an attempt to make me reconsider. I dropped her off and she started crying very loudly, fell down in her parents' driveway and crawled to the front door. Sure enough, next day I was arrested for sexual assault and it took a week for her to admit she made it up, but the charges weren't dropped for 7 months. One very low-key date, that she asked me on, and let her know as gently as possible that I wasn't feeling it. This chick just pulled all sorts of stuff. Showing up at random places where I was, pretending it was a coincidence. Calls from different numbers. Making fake social media accounts to not only try to contact me, but also befriend my friends. Suicide and cutting threats. Made up friends and relatives dying. Posting photos of me, unaware she was nearby. Made up boyfriends to try to elicit jealousy. Even a fake pregnancy scare from one of said fake boyfriends. Really didn't understand how she thought that one was going to sway my opinion. This sort of stuff went on for a while until I moved away for unrelated reasons. This was many years ago now and I can't even remember her name. I hope she has forgotten mine as well. Another woman pulled the "I'm pregnant" card on me after a breakup. Positive test in hand and everything. Drove her to a clinic for a professional test. She wasn't, of course, but what an evil tactic. I was relatively good looking and popular in high school and was aware that girls liked me. One of those girls was someone I was studying for an AP exam with. She lived a couple of blocks away and would come over when I got home from baseball practice. One night we were quizzing each other and she said something to the extent of, "If you get all of them right, I'll let you kiss me." I did not get them all right, but she told me I could kiss her anyway. I just kind of chuckled, told her nope, I had to get them all right, and went back to studying. Later that night she sent me an email about how she views me as more than a friend and wants to know if I felt the same way. She was a cool girl and I liked hanging out with her, but I didn't want to date her, so I told her how I valued our friendship, etc. I get that it was a cliché response, but, rather than accepting it gracefully, she told our AP US history teacher I was harassing her. Our AP US history teacher was also my baseball coach. Now, if you watch American teen movies but didn't play sports, you probably think my teacher told her he would speak to me about it, then we had a good laugh in the locker room. If you played sports, you're probably aware that I was benched from a game and spent the next couple of practices running laps around the perimeter of the field. I guess that's not really a horror story, per se, but it was still a bad thing to do because a guy turned you down. Kind of related, but a friend of mine stalked a boy in our high school class for over 2 years and would always tell people, faculty included, how she wanted to marry him, have his kids, keep him in her basement, etc. It was mostly joking, but her crush on him was real. Anyway, one of the teachers ratted her out and she got hit with the threat of a restraining order by the APs if he wanted to press charges. She was mortified, but luckily he didn't want to pursue anything with the law. After that she cooled down the stalking. A year went by and she said she was over him, but then decided to solicit him for anal sex via Instagram DMs, and then told everyone about how she did so. She was reported by a faculty member yet again. So, little bit of backstory. I was in high school and found out this girl was cheating on me, so I broke up with her. She wanted to get back together, but I wasn't gonna fall into that again. She would text me like once a month trying to start conversation to get back together. I kept it to small talk for about 5 minutes each time before killing the conversation. Every time I rejected her she would get absolutely pissed. She would badmouth me around the school. She tried convincing my friends that I'm gay. She tried saying I beat her. The list goes on and on. Oh, and she tried convincing me that she was pregnant. She made comments like, "You're gonna be a dad." So I went to her house on a Saturday and told her I will pay for a test, but she got really pissed and started making excuses. Luckily nobody ever believed her, and I graduated now so I don't have to deal with her. She still tries getting back together though. There was this girl that used to hang with most of my friends, and there were a few occasions when she got drunk and came at me with aroused fury. The worst event happened when we were all at my house drinking and smoking. At first she was just being flirtatious, but the more she drank the louder and more obnoxious her advances became, to the point where she was just repeating "Sideswipe, let me suck your D." My strategy was to laugh and brush it off, hoping not to agitate whatever primal instincts were fueling that flame in her loins. Eventually, she got up from the couch, gave me this sort of determined look, said something like "I'm just gonna suck it," then started rushing over to me when she slipped and straight face planted on the hardwood floor. The floor itself had crawl space underneath, so that stuff reverberated like a bag of bricks just got dropped. While everyone was pointing and laughing I went and hid in my room, and for the next hour or so could hear her wandering around looking for me yelling weird things. Eventually she left, and from what I've seen on her Facebook it looks like she quit drinking and drugs and is doing better today. My sister-in-law's best friend. I couldn't stand being around her. She was obnoxious, stupid and dressed like a $10 prostitute. My brother and sister-in-law were always planning date nights for the four of us, and then they would find a way to recede into the night so the two of us would be alone. I was nice at first, but then her flirting went into overdrive. She was always smiling at me and caressing me and laughing at my jokes even though I wasn't trying to be funny. I had to put the brakes on everything, and I became short with my answers and practically sat on my hands. I wanted to make sure I wasn't sending any signals out. After several get-togethers, she finally got the hint. Unfortunately, she couldn't handle the rejection and started bad-mouthing me to anyone with a listening ear. I was confronted several times by family members and mutual friends about how mean I was to her. I was even told that she told someone I don't even know that I got drunk and started grabbing her. She couldn't handle rejection like a grown-up, so she made me out to be in butthole. When I was in high school, this girl had a major crush on me and decided to write me a note one day. She found my picture in the yearbook, but due to a printing error the wrong name was next to my picture. She had someone give me the note, addressed to the wrong yearbook name, and it was just going on and on about how she is in love with me and all that. I honestly thought the girl was attractive. She was weird but kind of 90s short hair alternative cute. She was 2 grades below me, but I went up and introduced myself and we became friends. She confided in me one day that she had never kissed anyone, and I said I would show her. Smooth, right? So we made out for a little while at a friend's house and things were fun. Then things kinda turned. The next day she asked me out. And I said that I thought we were good friends and I don't think going out is a good idea. Let me stop here and say this was stupid teenage peer pressure BS. All of my friends thought she was super weird and kind of made fun of me for kissing her. If they weren't around I might have gone out with her because I liked her, but I let my friends get in my head. After I told her that, she burst into tears. Like full-on uncontrollable sobbing in the lunchroom. I felt really bad because I wasn't a guy who had ever had to turn a girl down. I wasn't some ladies' man, and I had been where she was, and I felt terrible. The next few days there were cry-filled calls begging me to date her. That we were perfect together. I worked at Kmart at the time and she would call my work crying. Then she called my house when I wasn't home and talked to my mother. And my brother. And my stepfather. Then she started calling my friends and asking them to convince me. Then one night she showed up at Kmart wearing a big overcoat with nothing on under it. She had started getting very overly sexual in the sobbing phone calls, saying she wanted me to take her virginity and just getting super graphic. She wanted me to bang her at work in the parking lot when I got off. I declined. Then in her calls she was saying she wants to have a family with me and what our kids would look like, and it was starting to get a little bizarre. I began thinking something is not right about this. Maybe she had mental issues. Her mother eventually got in contact with my mother and asked her why I was harassing her daughter. My mother laughed and jokingly said my son is terrified of your daughter. And told her that she legit called 10 times a night. Apparently she had her mom convinced I was the one going after her. Then one day the calls stopped over the summer. No more random visits at work. It turns out she was having some kind of psychotic breakdown. She had made a shrine to me in her closet with pictures of me, from where I have no idea, and articles of my clothes she somehow got. The breaking point was she had been taken advantage of by a much older man when she told him that I didn't like her because she wasn't sexually experienced enough. I was a virgin, so he offered to teach her some things. She went away to a hospital and I didn't see her for years. Fast forward shot 3 years and I am at a club and these group of hot chicks walk into the bar area, and there she is with them. And she was gorgeous. I didn't know if I should talk to her because I was the cause of her breakdown, so I just took my beer and sat across the room. She was way out of my league now. And her friends were equally beautiful. She spots me about a half hour after walking in and makes her way over to me. She is totally nice and isn't weird at all. We talk for a while and she tells me she went to live with an uncle in New York when she got out of the hospital. Her uncle worked as an assistant to some famous photographer and he discovered her, and she started working as a model while living in NYC and going to school. Her friends were also models and they were her roommates and had come with her to meet her family on vacation. Turns out she ended up much better off than I did. I still talk to her on Facebook from time to time. She is now a mom with 2 kids and a cool little family. And she's still amazing looking. When I was in college my band had a show at a university out of town. That's a pretty big party school. This one girl was flirting with me pretty hard. I let her know I had a girlfriend more than once. She didn't care. After we played, we were hopping from party to party, and her and one of her friends were tagging along with our group and she kept flirting with me. At a certain point I just started ignoring her because it was getting annoying. She did not like this. Her response was to get 2 guys at one of the parties to double team her in a bedroom and take pictures. She later got one of my drunk friends to give her my phone number and she started texting me the pictures. It was hilarious. She was overly cheery, kind of a princess type, not used to being told no. We'll call her Princess. So at a college party at my buddy's apartment, she was coming onto me. I was not interested in her. I was much more interested in another girl who was discussing the merits of how taxation is a form of theft with a circle of people playing cards. We'll call her Porcupine. Well, after trying to ignore Princess for 25 minutes, Princess decided I was playing hard to get. She accidentally spills her drink on me and offers to help me dry off. I decline and ask my buddy if I can go grab a shirt from his room. I go into his room to grab a shirt and I guess she followed me because she wraps her hands around me from behind and started feeling me up. I slipped out and told her to get away from me. But she wasn't having it and blocked the door. She then said if I tried to push past her she'd tell everyone I attacked her, and who were they going to believe? This is the scenario every guy dreads. Because she's right. If she claimed I attacked her, there is no way in hell they'd believe me. Native, introverted, computer major guy over pretty, popular, social butterfly half my size girl. Thankfully Porcupine had come looking for me as it was my turn, and what the hell was taking me so long to change a shirt? She overheard it and told Princess to get the hell out of the room. Which begrudgingly she does. But it's the only time a girl tried to coerce me like that. And now we enter Tifu territory. I, believing Porcupine was looking for me for more than cards, thank you alcohol and impaired judgment, make a move on Porcupine. Porcupine plays for the other team. I make a complete butt out of myself in front of her. Thankfully she took it well, politely rejected me, and told me her girlfriend would be very upset with her.